Today's episode is sponsored by Billy Keel's Advisory Services. If you want to learn more about how to make your 99 optional, just go to makeitoptional.com. Once again, that's makeitoptional.com.
Helping you build freedom without losing your edge. This is the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels.
You know what? This is one of the things that I absolutely love about being the host of this podcast, because I get to not only meet, but get to cross paths over and over with some of the most magnificent, impactful people that you will ever meet. And today is absolutely no different, because today's guest is not only a transformation catalyst, he's also an author, and he's a former leader for a very well-known enterprise software company that he's probably going to tell us about, who now defines himself as, check this out, everybody, the guardian of the memory of the field, which I absolutely love because I was in the field for many years. And, you know, after nearly 3 decades in the global tech and lifelong exploration of spirituality, he is now helping leaders and organizations to reconnect not only with the human, but also the living parts of how change is happening and transformation is happening in large organizations. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, the one, the only, Mr. Axel Ferreyrolles. Axel, welcome to the Going Long podcast with yours truly, Billy Keels.
Thank you, Billy, and what a pleasure to be with you today. It's just an amazing time for me to be with you on this podcast and to talk to all your auditors. So happy to be there.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. And I know, having known the not just the professional that you are, the person, the human that you are, that there's going to be so many life lessons that will be impactful for our entire audience today. So I kind of talked a little bit about some of the things you did. I didn't want to steal your thunder, as we like to say. So I would really love for you to tell, in your own words, Axel, if you could talk to us about what are some of the different decisions that you've made to get to this part of your journey. And then after you bring us and fill us in on your backstory, then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
With pleasure, Billy. I guess I start with my age, because age might have also an impact in the story. I'm 52. I'm married. I have 2 kids, beautiful boys who played rugby when they were younger, and they are now 20 and 22. So I've decided to make that jump out of the corporate world when I knew that they were safe. Because for me, it all starts with family, right? And I had to keep in mind this, this element when I made my choice. With that said, I'm a pure, I would say, product of the French business school. I went through a large corporation, starting with Accenture, then moved to Compaq in Munich, and where I had to sell, like you did, from Estonia down to South Africa to, down to Japan. So I was having lots of fun in Compaq at the time. Then Compaq was bought by HP. So I was at HP as well, where I went into more marketing. And after a while, I decided to leave, and I finally joined SAP, the software company, where I stayed 18 years. And that's where we met, Billy, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think you and me might have a slightly different perception on what is our own currency. My currency is knowledge. And whether I wanted it or not, and even though I went through sales and sales management, my heart and soul and passion got me into knowledge. And where can I find knowledge in large corporation? Was into first processes, where I designed most of the processes for Europe, and then into enablement and training. And I ended up, honestly, in that area where I had lots and lots of fun training, managing leaders, managers, and salespeople across the world at the global level, and also spending lots of time on the notion of transformation and innovation. So my heart has always been around knowledge, and it got me there. Point to which, after 18 years of good service at SAP, I realized it was time for me to move on. And the reason for that is quite clear. SAP made a strategic decision to go towards AI. Now, I've used AI as innovation lead. I like AI, but my heart again is, and my passion is with humans. And my question I had for SAP is, what about humans? And I guess the question I would have to you, to all your auditors and listeners, is what about humans within this area of AI? And I guess we need to find that balance. We need to keep that into account, that any technology comes with a level of consciousness. And these technologies goes very, very fast. And I'm wondering, is our consciousness moving at the same speed? Mm-hmm. So what are we doing with human in this area of AI?
This is such a deep question. Actually, there's so many different things that I want to talk about. But also, there's something that you said to me that I see frequently working with clients, and I love that you started with age, right? Because I can also relate exactly to that age. But you said something that I know many people, especially when you're the primary earner, you're working in a large corporate, there is this sense of responsibility. And you mentioned once your 20 and 22-year-olds were safe.
Yeah.
And that actually ties a lot into the human element. But what is it about safety that was one of the leading indicators or the leading reasons for making the decision when you made it?
I guess, I'm a coach, and you forgot to mention that. I'm a coach, and as a coach, I spend time coaching people. Yeah. But the first thing and the first person I coach is myself. I developed a methodology based on 3 archetypes, which are 3 action forces within you. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because it will answer to your question. One of this archetype is the prisoner. The prisoner is afraid, but the prisoner looks at risk. He wants you to be safe, but he's locked into a cage, in a cell, and he's attached to things, and he's afraid of what's going on, and he's anxious about things. And he is the one who looks at safety for the others and safety for you. And my prisoner in that case started shouting, because my wife doesn't work, I'm the only one bringing the money home, and leaving a company like SAP with a good salary is a risk. Yeah. Especially that I might not have the skills you have for finance, and my path towards human at the moment in the current circumstances is a risk. It's a risk because that's not where companies are investing. And really they are de-investing on human and conscious type activities, even well-being activities. Yeah. So I knew there was a risk. But there is a moment where, as a human, and this is where the 2 other archetypes are kicking in, the gladiator is the one who knows what he wants, right? And because I've spent lots and lots of time in this area of human development, personal development, and coaching, I knew that's where I wanted to go. And more importantly is the creator. I'm a creator, I'm an architect, I'm a designer. And the architect in me was saying, listen, guys, it's time for you to create something bigger, have a bigger impact, and look at the cost of opportunity if you stay at SAP doing quite a process-driven activity, even though it's through training, compared to if you can impact the world through what you design, what you believe in, what you build in, as you do with all the podcasts and the company you've built. And I guess that cost of opportunity is also very important when you make a decision. So I had to balance the risk. And believe me, we can talk about that. I'm totally vulnerable and open here. I was afraid, and I had some tough nights. On the other hand, there was the creator shouting within me saying, you know who you are, or at least you believe. And because you believe, do it. It's time. When are you doing it otherwise? When you're 70, 80, when you're dead? Not really. So do it now.
So when you went through the having those reference frameworks, right, and being able to understand the prisoner, the gladiator, the creator, so you recognized those different architects that work within yourself, and you came back to, and this is something that, if I think about when I was at SAP as well, right, I hid in the shadows for such a long time of what I was building on the side and building in the background, and because I was afraid, right, and this is really where I want to pick up on what you talked about. The fear that I had, it didn't keep me from actually building, because I continued to build. I continued to excel when I was at the office. I continued to be a part of the Catalyst program or the Top Talent program, these types of things. But I was afraid for anybody to find out what I was doing on the side because of the perception or the misperception that happened. When you talked about you were afraid, like you were recognizing that there was an element of something that you were afraid of, can you talk to us more about what it was that you were afraid of? Because I think we don't talk about this kind of stuff enough.
Oh, fear for me are good friends, so no problem to talk about that. But before that, I want to mention something. As a creator, an architect, and a designer, and an explorer, I use the word use is a bit tough. I leverage SAP as an incubation center. I develop things on things that I like. I like quantum, so I developed quantum leadership, and I started training people in quantum leadership. I developed the 3 archetypes, and I started training people on the 3 archetypes. And I always used the company as a center of incubation, always. I did it on transformation, on innovation, on AI, on the 3 archetypes, on quantum leadership, and so on and so forth. Because large corporations are amazingly rich in brains, in people who are very open, if only they have the time to respond to your request. But I had the chance, because I knew lots of people, and because I had a certain reputation, to get people who were ready to follow me. But to get people on 6 weeks on quantum leadership is special, because quantum goes very far. So the first thing I want to say is, yes, please use, into brackets, leverage your unique position in large corporation to incubate what you're doing. Number one. The second thing for me, in terms of fear, and because I stayed on the shadow, and I played that game that I wanted to stay in the shadow, it's not true. I realized 2 things. Number one, I needed to be able to face the judgment of people if only I was able to talk about what I'm really interested in, meaning quantum and human and humanness. It goes far, and people can judge you because some of them are materialistic, especially working large IT corporations. Of course, I'm facing engineers, and engineers have a different mindset, slightly different from mine, and more of a philosophical aspect. So facing judgment is a first fear. The second one was collaboration and community. I always worked alone, researched alone. I never were part of groups. And it took me time over the last 3 years, honestly, to sense that I needed to stop that. I needed to co-create. I needed to face the community, the social network, because it's not natural to me. And it took me 3 years to get there. And I'm still learning, by the way, not at your level. But it's an important realization that I wanted to co-create. I have developed so many things. I have so many concepts, content in my laptop. But delivering them myself is boring. I want to co-create. That's why I stand.
This co-creation, and this is, I was speaking to a client earlier, actually yesterday, and it was this whole concept of sometimes you find yourself when you are leading in an organization, or you are a subject matter expert in your organization, and you literally we literally talked about this yesterday, is there is this tendency to want to be a lone wolf. And you continue to want to do things on your own and constantly because you are the subject matter expert. And I find it very refreshing to hear you talk about how while you were in the shadows, you also recognized that there was a benefit to not just always being in the shadows, but to co-create. What was it that led you to that realization whilst you were still inside of the organization to be able to better impact not only your others, but also for what that did for you and your development, your growth?
I would like to answer your questions with 2 steps, because you mentioned something important. I was managing a team of 51 operation people in Europe. And because I couldn't do what I wanted, I couldn't manage through the values I was embodying, I believe. And I had to follow what the company wanted me to do. I burned myself with some of the employees, and I said, that is the end. So I dropped that. I think I'm one of the few in SAP who decided to leave a director position to go back to a single contributor.
Here's another one.
So here we go. The 2 on the spot. And what did I learn? I learned that I'm going fast. That I can do things quickly, and usually with a level of quality which is acceptable to the corporation, therefore creating enough space for me to incubate something else. While if I'm managing the others, which I love because as a coach, I like humans, I realized that was taking time on my creative process. So at that time, I had to decide between creation or coaching. Coaching is the most powerful thing you can imagine in terms of mid to long-term impact and performance. But you need to decide to spend time on the human at that time. And I was more focused on investigating quantum. So I decided to go creation first, and I dropped the rest.
Okay.
That's point number one. Point number two is, if you want to co-create, there is something magical that happens. You need to drop your certainties and you need to drop the form. And as a trainer, as an ops guy, and as someone trained by Accenture, pay attention to details, I have been brainwashed on structure.
Yeah.
It's not who I am. It's what I became.
And
I realized
I think this is, can you repeat what you just said? Because I think this is really important, because this speaks to even to a nature versus nurture. Just that last part about the structure.
I became a structured person because I was trained by Accenture, the process, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's not who I am. I'm an artist. I'm a creator, intuitive artist. So if you ask me, do I like processes? No. But I still spent 8 years designing them.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did life bring that to me? For now, I don't know. What I know is that I can talk to anyone in any customers, and I understand the way their company works. But it's still, I know now, and something quite beautiful, I see how process and human works together through values and through energy. So having all that development on processes and structure was very useful. And of course, everyone knows when you have a certain age that all the small rivers come to that nexus point where you're ready to deliver who you really are, right? And why you're on that planet. But it took very strange pathways and journeys and adventures for you to come to that point. So like you've done, I've done, I went through, sales, marketing, and management and operation and transformation and innovation and all that. And you're like, why? Just to be ready when you're 52, because there is 8,000 people from SAP being fired and there is that plan and you can take it just because at that moment you're ready. Yeah. But again, what I learned was that to go where I want to go, which is not to deliver stuff, but to create space where people can transform, I need to let go of the form. To let go of the form is to unlearn everything you've learned, and is also opening to different points of view and to co-create. Because you cannot co-create if you don't share and value what the other person is coming with and is bringing to the table. And you can only do it from my point of view if you come with an open mind, therefore a white paper, a blank sheet of paper, and you don't project your structure, your fear, your belief, your experience. You just sustain that judgment, your knowledge. You just say, okay, what wants to emerge? And what wants to emerge can be anything. It can be anything. And to let go of that certainty took me 2.5 years, and I'm still learning, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's an ongoing process. I can tell you that, my friend. This is, I'm 4.5 years later, and I'm still unlearning and learning. One of the things that I would like for us to get into a bit more is humanness, and there's some things that I want to talk about. But there is also one other thing that I really know that those that are continuing to invest their time with us and watch and listen. You said something to me that is absolutely, there's like silver level advice, there's gold level advice, and then there's platinum level. Like you said something earlier that's platinum plus level, and I can't let it go by because you said that you recognized within the corporate environment that you wanted to be able to have it as a lab, be able to perfect your craft. Yeah. And this is something that I don't believe I was very conscious about while I was in corporate. However, it was a great opportunity to perfect skills or improve skills through constant repetition. It's something that I don't believe that we focus enough on, that we talk enough about. But since you raised that, I believe that we should feel much more comfortable within the corporate environment and being intentional about one of the things that you talked about. Can you maybe just take us a little bit more into your world? What was it that gave you that epiphany to say, hey, listen, this is a great opportunity to not only bring new process or new thought process, but also to be able to test and be okay with that.
Frustration was my motor, my engine. And the frustration came from the fact that any large corporation and any corporation come with a list of values, and they come with a leadership motto. And SAP, not to pinpoint on them, but for the last 18 years, SAP had a very clear motto on leadership. And one of the core value of the leadership was do what is right. And while I was in my position as expert, and I was looking around me, especially managing salespeople and training salespeople in that case, to be more precise, I realized that we were not doing what was right for the company. We were doing what was right for our KPIs on the way we were measured so that we get money. Now, because my currency is not money but knowledge, I never got attached to that. I don't give a toss about what my manager told me about my performance. I was in charge of did I do the right thing for SAP, not for my manager? And that get me extremely frustrated because I realized that the great brain, the great mind we had at SAP were turned into robots because we asked them to follow processes and KPIs. And all the creativity that I have within me was shouting, saying, those guys are creative, and we prevent that creation from surfacing and emerging because of that process that, by the way, I have contributed to put in place. Point at which I say, okay, the only way to break that pattern is to create labs, what I call innovation labs. And I did it within the remit of training and enablement. But bear with me for a second. I went to Australia, and I asked the Australian sales force to enter a lab where everyone was aligned. The MD, the COO, the sales directors, all the sales teams, the sales support functions, everyone was aligned with that lab. But I made a mistake. I came with my own perception of what freedom is. And I like freedom. Huh? So if you tell me, do what you want, believe me, I'm going to use this. But I came to that team and I said, listen, guys, you have now that space for 3 months, innovation cycle, to test something new. It's an innovation lab. And by the way, all your line of decisions is aligned. It's okay. You can do it. So we trained them for 2 hours and we said, now you're ready. You can do and reshape everything you want in the sales process. Guess what happened?
Did they stay with this? Did they stay with what they were doing before?
They came back after 6 weeks saying, we didn't get the point. What is it that you want us to do?
Yeah.
And we talk about the most experienced account managers in the corporation. And I was shocked. But then I stood back and I said, okay, what is it? People who are used to follow processes. That works, by the way. We were number one in the marketplace, and we still are. That case, SAP still is. And I realized we turned them into execution machine. And they were comfortable in an execution role. But in today's circumstances, with the level of AI, with the level of complexity, with the chaos within which we arrive, we are 7 out of 9 boundary planetary levels bypassed that will create chaos, believe me, from a climate perspective. When you see whatever is coming, being a robot, executing orders will not be sufficient. The human that face the future should be creative people. And when you look at the World Economic Forum, one of the top values and competence they put is creativity. And that's the point. You need to start helping people become more creative, more of themselves, more trustworthy and courageous and bold, but also this is linked to a sense of belonging and a sense of passion and psychological safety so that they can express that creativity. And what I realized is giving too much freedom in one go is not good. It's too damaging to the system. So we gave them a little bit more guidelines, and then we started reshaping processes, and it went really well. But I learned that, number one, innovation labs are welcome and needed because a company, a large corporation, will stop innovating. They will create research and development departments. What about sales? When was the last time you innovated in sales as a team? Right? So I think it's high time for everyone, managers, leaders, entrepreneurs, to think about those innovation lab, innovation cycle, 3 months basis. But it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that where your innovation and the concept of Innovation Lab, where these came from, was through frustration, right? It's amazing when we look to solve our own issues, challenges, headaches, what can come out of that, right? So I appreciate you taking a step back and really talking and digging into that. And so you mentioned creativity. I'd like to expand. I'd like to talk about trust. I'd like to talk about authority. I'd like to talk about courage and even vulnerability, right? Are these qualities that we say are human qualities? Yeah. You've talked a lot about it. And I'd really like for you to help us expand our minds in this very creative moment as well. Because I know something that's really important to you is these whole human qualities and the concept of humanness.
Yes.
Help us understand, what does that mean? How can we be thinking about this? How can we embrace this topic of humanness?
Humanness is the reason why I decided to jump. I met Quinn, who is the visionary behind Humanness. He's now my business partner, and we are brother in arms, and we are the co-founders of Humanness in its current form. Humanness wants to restore human qualities at the heart of business, very simply. But there is a trick, and that's why you say, how can we think about it? Your brain is a fantastic machine, but when you are under stress, you operate into something that we call high beta brainwaves, high frequency. Yeah? The frequency of your brain pattern goes very high. When you are in that pattern, you're into fear and anxiety. The trick with fear and anxiety is that you're into survival mode. And there is no creativity whatsoever that can emerge from a survival mode. It's your reptilian brain trying to look at danger everywhere, playing defensive all the time, creating cover your ass type emails so that you make sure you're not in danger, right? That is, unfortunately, the mindset of anyone in any corporation I know. The reason why we built and we designed and created Humanness is because we know that we need to create spaces where you can move from high beta to alpha. Alpha is light meditative state. In a light meditative state, something magical happens. The fear goes away. You therefore are ready to open up. It's a kind of physiological process. Your bodies and your chemicals within the body are getting more relaxed, you're more coherent, and you start being open to emotions. And you're ready then to speak up. Right? Of course, things might not be nice to be told because there may be problems that need to be expressed. But the way you're going to do it is not on a defensive or aggressive way. Yeah. It would be like, I sense, I feel, I don't feel that well, or yeah, I mean, when you say this, I sense that. So it becomes human. And that sense of trust, of authenticity, of vulnerability can be reached only when you move from high beta to alpha. And what we do in Humanness, we use ancient traditions, we use sounds, we use art to create the space for people to relax. When they relax, then we start diving in. And we dive in specific ways. We have an entire process, and that's why, let's say, my process came into the game, but also Quinn has 15 years of using that in marketing. So it's not new. It's well tested. But we enrich the process. And what we do is quite magical. There is two magical sources of energy in a corporation. The first one is the essence, is why the founders created the company in the first place. In the first place, what we call the myth. What's the myth of the company? Why did the 5 people went out of IBM and created SAP in the first place? Why? Was it to sell software? Really? To make profit? And to give money to the shareholders? Is it really why they left IBM? Seriously? No. There was something much more subtle, much more powerful, much more human behind it. A dream, right? There was a vision. The first thing you need to connect to is that essence, that myth. And that's what we do. The second thing, which is amazing, is within yourself. It's your inner journey, what we call the myth of the hero, right? Back to Joseph Campbell. And this is the second source of energy that is so powerful. You are a hero. Everyone is a hero, not an employee, not a collaborator. They are heroes. They are all leaders. For me as coach, I don't see anyone else as less than a hero or leader. But not everyone sees it till you get them into that pattern. So we create that space, moving from high beta to alpha. We reconnect to the myth and to the inner journey. And only from that places do we get into the emergence of values, and those values create the path towards new processes and behaviors. And that's how we ignite companies. That's why we let company reconnect to its essence. And people realize that they are proud to be part of this company. Because at the end of the day, they are proud and they want to belong. And most people have lost that. They've lost it because they simply could not reconnect to the essence of the company. It's too far away.
I love that. And I love both the essence and recognition of the heroes, right? Because on every single day, you are leading your space. You are the hero of your journey. And when you can connect with the essence, I love the way that is just the visual. I love the emotional aspect of that as well. And it's very much in line with the thought process that I have, that we have here at the podcast, which is really understanding how can you make the most of your corporate experience and doing it in a way that helps to ignite your inner energy, your alignment with self. And when you can connect that with something that is more than money, it's amazing. And it's just like with the story that you were sharing earlier, you continue to understand and found innovation through the innovation labs because you were trying to solve a problem. You weren't trying to make more money. I grew up in a very, let's say, some people may hear it and go, yeah, the currency is not money, but all currency is money. I'm just like, well, I used to think money solved all problems until I went through a life batch that I've been very open here on the podcast in 2023. And I realized that no matter how much money I had, it couldn't solve the problems that I needed solved or that I was looking to have solved, right? You have to figure out and you have to understand. And as you're talking about the essence and looking inward to figure out what can be done, what are these things that are happening for you? And you realize that currency, money, doesn't solve all problems. Money solves money problems, nothing else.
I mean, if you don't have the money and I don't have the salary that I had before, so I see the difference and you need to make some adjustment. Does it make me less happy? No.
Right.
I think I have given more value to money. Before I was gaining enough not to pay attention. Now I know what a euro means because I'm in transition. And I think it was important, honestly.
Yeah.
But am I less happy? No, I'm much more happy because I do what I love. And I realize money, okay, you need a minimum, but it's not making you happy or not happy. It's totally different.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's an important statement. And what I would like to say to those who are in large corporations or in corporations, first, you have the chance and the opportunity and the possibility to influence. You can have an impact if only you decide. Yeah. What I've done, I created a master program, and bear with me on this one, Billy, because I was in charge of the sales managers and the training we had for me was not transformative enough. I decided to create a master degree for frontline sales managers. Now, for you to know very well, sales is not a profession. Because it's not a profession, I went to Stanford and to MIT and to Harvard and to Oxford and Cambridge. And I said, do you have any masters in sales? And they said, no, it's not a profession. And they said, it's under marketing. And I'm like, guys, listen. I mean, we represent 70% of the workforce, but we generate, 70% of the revenue. So without us, no business. Okay? Us meaning we were in sales. And they said, yeah, but you're marketing. It's like B2B, I mean, B2C. I said, maybe in B2C, but in B2B is different. Well, right? In any case, I said, okay, you don't have anything. No, they wanted to sell me plain vanilla leadership. And I said, no. And we created that master program with Middlesex University and Consalia in London. But what is very important is that through this transformation, we realize, that what it takes is really to go back to the core of your values, your belief systems, right? And from there, build up everything and realize the impact you can have, and realize three things. There is the I, the we, and the greater we. You can work for yourself, and that's okay. But then you need to work for the people around you and your team, which is the we, and then the greater we, which is whether the corporations or the ecosystems around it. And in research, it's always I, we, greater we. All your research is based on those three levels. And I created, when I left SAP, I created this ecosystem. I have me in the center with dynamic transformation, investigating quantum and lots of research and spirituality. I have with Quinn, Humanness, where we look at how to restore human qualities at the center of organizations. I work with Laurent, where we set up an association in Paris, where we look at ecosystems and regenerative approach and systemic approach. And I work with a good friend of mine, Emily, where we work for humans and we try to restore what it means to become human and how to master being human. So I have the I, the human, I have the organization, the we, and I have the ecosystem, the greater we. And I reorganized my entire life around these three pillars. Mm-hmm. I, we, greater we. And I try to have an impact on each of them. And you can use the fractal in organizations. Depending who you are and what you do, what's your impact for the I, for the we, and for the greater we? And be conscious around those. Be conscious that you can influence everything, and it's a choice whether you work for yourself to the, you say that, negative impact to others, or if you want to take the team, or if you want to take a larger team, if you want to take the organization, or if you want to take the ecosystems. You choose. You're in charge. You're responsible.
And it goes back to what you were talking about before. At the end of the day, you are the hero of your journey. You have the opportunity to influence, and whether you do that at the I level, the we level, or the greater we level, that really is about what is the dedication, what is the commitment that you are willing to give in order to make the impact that you're looking for. So, And I also love the way that you frame that, because one of the things that you realize when you are no longer in a corporation is that you are able to design the life 100% that you want to be aligned with the way that you want to live. You can begin that journey when you are in a corporation, as long as you're clear on what it is that you want to achieve. What are the priorities in your life, and then live in alignment with that. I know a lot of times, and I'm sure you and I have both seen lots of people that when you're in a corporation, and I've probably I know I fell victim to this, that things got out of alignment. And there were moments where I realized that I was spending a lot more time in things that were not in alignment with my core values or what have you. But you do begin to realize this the more that you are in large corporations, and you course correct along the way. So, so here's the thing, like Axel, I want to speak to you forever and ever and ever, but unfortunately, like the podcast has a certain amount of time. But before we kind of we wrap things up together, there's a question that it's one of these questions I like to leave each one of our guests with, because it's something that also happened for me in life, which is I recognize that there's a certain moment in life where things seems like everything is going perfectly, right? And it's like everything is perfect, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like, this is just happening, and it's going to continue to happen forever and ever and ever. And you don't necessarily pay attention to it because it's so great. Sure. Then there's the opposite extreme where things are like, you're on the bottom, everything is going wrong. Things just feel like this is going to last forever and ever and ever. And it's just terrible, right? It feels terrible. But once you go through both the highs and the very lows, you realize that each one of those are just moments. They're just moments, right? But when you're in those moments that are really, really low, or you're doubting, you're afraid, you have those fears, this is the thing that I want you to think about, because it's something that I actively think about now. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to project out 10 years. I don't want to even project out 5 years, but let's go really wild and crazy and say, we're going to project out 3 years. And I want you, Axel, to think about those moments that maybe you have more doubt, more fears, because they always come up. They always do, no matter what. And so between now and in the next 3 years, you're going to go through one of these moments. But also I realized that no matter how much help you have from the outside, at the end of the day, it's about the conversations that you're having with yourself. Mm-hmm. And those are the moments that really help you to get through everything. The support, the love from others is absolutely additional, but you have to have that conversation with yourself. And I'm just wondering, what is the one message that you want to leave for yourself today that 3 years from now is the key message that you needed to hear to get you to where you're going to be making the positive impact you're looking for? What's the one message that you want to leave for yourself?
What emerges directly is have faith and have fun. Faith goes beyond thinking, and fun, joy is what tells you that you are aligned with yourself. So I will keep on having faith in human, and the fact that human is at the center of performance and everything. And I will have fun, collaborate with companies, partners, leaders who are ready to listen to that message and who still believe that humans are more important than AI. So faith and fun.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Have faith, have fun. And these conversations, they literally fly by. I'm thinking we just started this, it seems like 30 seconds ago, and you're telling everyone as a 52-year-old father with kids, 2022, that you made the decision, right? Once the prisoner in you that was looking at the risk, listened to the gladiator and the creator and recognized, you know what, now's the moment. And so you had these frameworks that you could lean back and rely on. And you shared us the stories as well of being able to understand so many of the different opportunities that exist within the corporate constructs that you can actually leverage, utilize to benefit not just the organization that you're working for. Also, it gives you your own opportunity to get repetitions over skill sets that you can perfect and use for not only your performance, but the performance of others. And you recognize that pretty much every amazing solution comes as a result of confronting your own frustration or your own challenge. And you've personified that with us and also helped us to recognize that it's not just about being able to connect with the essence of an organization that you're there, but it's also to recognize the hero in each and every one of us to be able to maximize our performance. And no matter what happens with technology, and you and I both spent a lot of time in technology, at the end of the day, it's the human element and the humanness that is going to make the biggest impact. And because you shared all of this wonderfulness with us, Axel, I know everybody is like, Billy, just ask him the question. He's talked about all these different ways he's helping people. So Axel, please help us understand, me and the entire Going Long family, what is the best way to find out more about you, how you're helping and impacting individuals and organizations?
LinkedIn, I would say, is the way to connect with me. The rest I'm learning. Billy, I'm learning. I'm getting on Instagram, which is brand new. I didn't have a clue that existed. I can tell you I'm bad at it, but I'm learning. My frustration at the moment, Billy, is that I have lots to give, I believe. I have lots to share in lots of areas, and I don't know how to do it. I'm alone, into brackets, and that's also what I learned. Corporation is a machine. Yeah, you're alone when you're an entrepreneur, of course, with your co-creators, but you have so many things you want to give. So how can you, I guess, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I will be happy to discuss. And we take it one discussion at a time. I guess that's the best.
I absolutely love that. And so, Axel, I'm going to also build on what you just said. So, Going Long family, Billy here, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and do Axel a favor. When, not if, but when you reach out to him on LinkedIn, please do yourself a favor and let Axel know that you've already invested time learning more about him, more about his story, because that's going to help you and him continue the conversation in a much easier way. And that way he's also going to feel the love from the Going Long family. So with that stated, listen, Axel, I want to say thank you very, very, very much for deciding to be here, invest time with us, and also help to remind us that it's that human element, then the humanness of every element that will continue beyond whatever technological moment that we're living in. And so thank you very, very much for me and on behalf of the entire Going Long family. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Billy, for having me here. My pleasure.
All right. Fantastic. Listen, Go Along family, go out, make it a great day. And thank you very, very much.